Hello and welcome to the Heliosblog. My name is Helios. Today we're going to talk about the girl who had everything. Today I'm going to do the exceptional and not talk to the guys. I'm going to talk to the girls who read this blog. And I'm going to tell you the true story of a girl who had everything until she didn't. This is the unfortunate story of a woman I knew. She died because of the matriarchy. Allow me to explain. Enjoying my content? Check out my blog at heliosblog.com. On YouTube, you can support me by liking and subscribing. I'm also on Spotify if you'd prefer a podcast. If you're interested in my books, The Strategist Guide to Seduction and Quotes to Live By, they're available on Amazon. In addition, you can follow me on Patreon at theheliosblog for exclusive content. On with the show. She was pretty. From a young age, this girl was pretty. Blonde hair, thin, with blue doe eyes. She had every physical quality you could imagine. Many people in her life remarked on her beauty. She was exceptional in this regard. This meant that she had constant attention until the war. She could have capitalized on it, and had she known what the world was really like from a younger age, she would have. She was smart. From a young age, people could tell she was smart. She learned multiple languages by the age of 10 and was exceptionally skilled at mathematics as well as computers. Everyone could tell she was going places. In fact, she ended up studying at not one, not two, but 3 of the world's most prestigious American universities. She completed her undergrad, PhD, and postdoc at these universities and was praised at each one. Multiple people remarked that she may have been one of the best scientists they ever had in their lab. Eventually, at the apex of her career, she published a paper in one of the world's most famous scientific journals. She was the envy of her friends and family. She was a rock star. Not only was she well educated and relatively famous in the scientific community, she was also well traveled. You can imagine that a young, thin, pretty genius would be a rock star. She was. She had attention everywhere she went from multiple suitors. None of them were good enough. She flitted from relationship to relationship, drinking of the power that women experience in this phase of their life. Had she known at this phase of her life what would be in store, she might have had a chance later. She listened to the matriarchy. She listened to what the matriarchy told her. You go, girl, you can have it all. You can have a career, travel, and finally settle down and be a wife and have children when you're older. These insidious messages are everywhere. They're in every TV show, on every billboard, and on all social media at all hours of the day. Her 20s passed and gave way to her 30s. She still wasn't married and still had no children. All of her family began to warn her about the dangers of her own biology. She didn't listen. She knew better. After all, she was the famous rock star scientist in her family. She hit the wall. At a certain point, things began to fall apart. The attention she received began to dry up. She, being a genius, realized exactly what was going on. She knew she was approaching her biological limit to have children, and knew that the chances of having children at this point were slim to none. She got involved with the most attractive man she could find at her age. He was a hippie druggy researcher type with a gleam in his eyes she enjoyed. She hoped beyond hope that she could fulfill her dreams of having children, something that at this point was painfully clear she could have done earlier. She got married. They were married. It was a beautiful destination wedding where people gathered from all over the world. Researchers from the east and west gathered on a cute little island to experience the wedding of these 2 beautiful people. On paper, it was perfect, and were it not for the sad glint in her eyes, we all would have been fooled. We were not, however, and could all tell something was wrong. We later realized it was drugs. The confluence. Everything came together at once. She'd moved to a different country to do research, a country that had none of her family members. She was isolated from everyone around her due to the virus that had begun to spread around the world. She continued to take drugs. Her and her husband began to argue. She'd reached her biological limit and was likely unable to have children. She understood that the good times were over. The world looked bleak. The end presents itself. After a brief stint at a mental hospital, likely due to drugs, and arguments with her husband, she began to reach out. She spoke to friends and family about how she'd made the wrong decision to marry this man. She spoke of how alone she was. She didn't mention the drugs. Later, she isolated herself, pushing everyone away. We thought she wanted some space. A little while later, she was gone. An overdose took her. So it ended. the beautiful life of a woman who had everything. Conclusion. This woman had it all: a career, a husband, fame, and world experience. What she didn't have was a realistic knowledge of biology. The matriarchy took that from her and replaced it with lies. Now she has nothing to show for it but dirt. Let this be a lesson to you women who believe that your biology is unimportant and you can have everything. The wall is unforgiving and unrelenting. Truly sad.